Cool. Hello.
Hi, everybody. Welcome in. We're just going to wait a little bit until some more folks start trickling in.
Yeah. Let us know if you can't hear us or can't see us.
Yeah.
If there are any technical issues.
Mm-hmm. Kylie and I are the only ones mic'd up, and June and Rosa will be going on the net runs. So, yeah. Today's a nice sunny day out here.
It's
Not a lot
pretty.
of clouds. Very pretty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Has it been pretty windy out?
Not at all.
No. Pretty still.
Okay, good.
Yeah. It's been very foggy. Like, not this week, but last week has been really foggy. So
Very wet.
very wet. We really appreciate the sun here.
Yeah.
Because of that. So.
Yeah, we do.
We've already gotten a couple of birds this morning, banded a few of them, so
Mhm.
fingers crossed we'll get something for the live.
Fledglings included.
It's true.
Yeah. Is the chat working, Larissa? Awesome.
Awesome.
Okay, so we
Cool.
could start with introductions, maybe?
Cool.
Okay, I'll start. My name is June. I'm a bander here at the Palomarin Field Station.
Hi, my name is Rosa. I'm also a bander here for spring summer.
My name is Ren. I am in the same position.
Yes, and my name is Kylie. I'm also a bander here, spring summer season.
Hi everyone, I'm Larissa. I'm the banding supervisor and I'm going to be behind the camera.
Yep. And running the chat and giving us all of your questions. So feel free to type comments, questions in there, send them to us, let us know.
Yes, please feel free to interact.
And yeah, Ren and I will be talking today, and June and Rosa will be leaving shortly, but we will see them again after they go on their run and see if we can get any birds for the live.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So we are here at the Palomarin Field Station, which is located at the south end of Point Reyes National Seashore. We're the longest running banding station on the west side of the Mississippi, and we've been banding for 59 years, almost 60, so close. Big 6-0. Our field station, yeah. It's a part of Point Blue Conservation Science, which is a conservation and research nonprofit. We are just one of their many programs. We have many initiatives from the Sierras to the sea, as we say, and Antarctica, which is pretty cool. Got to get everywhere.
Yeah, so here at the Palomarin Field Station, as Kylie said, we're a long-term banding project here, and so we monitor things like bird population and ecosystem health through bird banding. So you might be wondering, what is bird banding? So these are the bands that we use, and you'll get to know them a bit more today, and I'll talk a bit more about them. I guess I'll talk about them now. So yeah, those are the bands that we put on the birds. So when we bring the birds in, each bird gets a unique band, and so you could think of it like a social security number. It's a 9-digit number that is just specific to that bird, because birds in the field may look very similar. So to know the individual, they have their own little code. And so when we recapture the bird, we can, jot down that number, put it into our database, and find out who that individual is. And through this, we can actually find out we do a lot of analyses and find out a lot of things like bird survivorship, productivity, and even ecosystem health and population demographics.
Oh, population demographics, you say? Tell us a little bit more about that, Ren.
Yeah, so population demographics, it's the kind of proportion of age.
Everybody say
sex.
bye to June and Rosa. See you
soon.
guys.
They're going on the net run now, so fingers crossed that we get birds. Fledglings.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes.
Why don't we? We do have a
Why
bird
don't
here to show everybody that we
do.
just processed.
Yeah, so I'll hold this until I finish my thought. So
Do it.
yeah, population demographics. It's the proportion of birds populations of like different like age or sex or like species of birds in a given area. And you can think of it like if you look into the proportion of old versus like younger birds, that could give us a hint as to like how that population is doing. For example, if there's more young birds that we're catching, that might be an indicator of like a more like abundance of food, for example, for that given season. And during this time of the year, we are catching a lot of fledglings. Lucky for us, we are focused on songbirds, and so the last 2 months, that's the like main, I guess, age category that we've been catching. So let's take out this brown. Oh, I didn't say anything.
Oh,
let's take out this bird.
This bird.
That you could
unknown bird.
Unknown bird, and drop in the comments like what species you think it might be.
Yeah. Would you like me to handle them?
Yeah.
Deal. Maybe while I'm getting them out, you can tell them about why we use bags.
Yeah. So
A little bit about that.
So June and Rosa are on the net run right now. They are checking our nets. So when they come across a net, they'll and there's a bird in it, they'll take out the bird, untangle it from the net, and then put them in these cotton bags that are breathable for them. It makes transport easier, safer, calmer for the bird.
Here he is. So if anybody's got an idea about what this bird is, drop it in the chat. Birds generally can look pretty different when you're birding and looking at them through binoculars versus in the hand. So no worries if it's not recognizable to you. His little feet. His tail.
All right. So if you guessed brown creeper, you were right.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
This is a pretty common bird we've been catching in the past couple of weeks, I'd say. And this bird is maybe not necessarily a fledgling, but from what we learned about it, taking its data, it is a young bird.
It's a young bird. Yeah. And
Hatched recently.
Yeah. We'll go more into how we found out it's a young bird a bit later. So yeah. Should I release it, or would you like to?
Yeah, I'll go release it real quick. Let them back into the wild.
Cool. Larissa's reading the chat. Did we get anyone guess? Cool. Right.
Awesome. Flew away well.
Guess you could talk about what a fledgling is.
Yes. Okay. So we've been using that term a lot, fledgling bird. And some of you may be wondering what exactly a fledgling bird is, or what makes a bird a fledgling. And we say that's when the bird is first leaving the nest after they've hatched. These birds are full size, so typically full grown, and many of them have their first full set of feathers grown in. Some of them can still be dependent on their parent birds, especially for food, which I'm sure all of us can relate. Oh, we've got a question.
What's all that stuff on the whiteboard behind you?
Okay, we were asked what all of the stuff on the whiteboard is behind us, which is a very good question.
Very good question. 2 sections.
There are 2 sections. We'll start with this one first, I suppose. So here we keep track of lots of things for us banders to look at during the work day, and for visitors who come into our nature center to also see. We display what birds we've caught, so we list their species, and then there are just quite a jumble of letters at the top here, which lets us track what age the birds are, so that people can see that when they enter. So far today we've caught an Oregon junco that was a hatch year, a young bird, and then a wren-tit and a brown creeper that we just showed you. We also we have a most wanted bird of the day that we select. Today's is an American redstart, which, that would be a miracle. I really hope that we catch one of those. They're not common around this area. We let everybody know who we are, give them our names, what day it is, just in case I forgot mostly. It's pretty early when we start working here. And then we also have a list of very exciting captures for the season and when we captured these birds. Something a little bit of interest for people to look at. And then at the end of the day, we list the total of birds that we caught, how many new birds that we put a band on during their time being processed, and also birds that we've recaptured that already have bands on them. Right, if you'd like to give a little... Oh, we have another question.
Ooh, we'll go over this really briefly, but...
Unless this question is connected.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's hear it.
Is Oregon junco a subspecies of dark-eyed junco?
Wow. We've got some educated
Really good
folks in the
questions.
Facebook Live.
Yes.
Indeed it is.
Oh, the question is Oregon junco a subspecies of dark-eyed junco? And the answer is yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the kind that, well, I guess we could get different juncos here, but this is the one that breeds here. There's different ways to tell differences, but we won't get into the nitty-gritty of that right now.
They do have a little bit more browner backs, and if you've ever been around the area where the field station is, it's probably the junco that you've seen.
Buffier sides. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll keep getting into fledglings. So I was talking, and I was saying that they still depend on their parents for food often. These fledglings are still dependent on those parents. And because they still have some their dependence and reliance on their parent birds, we as banders bring back fledgling birds to the net that we caught them at because they just quite aren't ready to be on their own, It's like when we say we leave the nest and you leave your family's home and start your own life. Those birds aren't there yet, and they need another meal or two before they're completely on their own.
So how can people at home identify like a fledgling if they're bird watching?
That's a great question. Yes, you don't have to be a bander to be able to tell apart fledgling and adult birds. There's many different ways. Sometimes you can tell based on behavior. Birds may be clumsier. They're still kind of learning how to fly, learning how to run around. They may make begging calls or other vocalizations that aren't typically the norm for songbirds especially. You may hear some different vocalizations. Specifically for jays, we have a lot of California scrub jays around the field station that we see frequently. They'll have shorter bills than their parents do, which is a pretty noticeable difference even through binoculars that you could see. And you may even observe the entire family together. Since fledgling birds are often still dependent on their parents, you may see a group of birds where, you can all tell that they're juncos, but some of those juncos don't look the same as the adult parents that you're used to seeing, a typical dark-eyed junco.
Yeah.
So there's also a big difference in plumage, especially if you're looking at a family unit. The adults have very typical plumage that you would usually see in a field guide, while juveniles tend to be a little bit more cryptic or drab. They may have less color overall. They may have spottier plumage or feathers to them, and that's to help them blend in and be less obvious while they're growing up. They need a little bit of camouflage. They may look scraggly or downy. They may have more fluffy feathers than the adults, which leads to some very cute birds. They can be very sweet with tufts of scraggly feathers hanging off of them. Additionally, juvenile birds tend to have feathers of poorer quality. So those birds are expending a lot of energy when they're first growing up, trying to get out of the nest, learning to fly, learning to forage for themselves. And they're trying to get out of there as fast as possible. So these birds tend to grow feathers of poorer quality so that they can get out of the nest in a timely manner. And then as these birds are older, they will replace those feathers soon with better quality ones. But it may be obvious to you even from just bird watching that those birds don't look exactly the same. One other cue that you may see as well is a gape, which many of you may be familiar with if you've ever had a nest of house finches or robins near your house, or really know much about baby birds. They will open their mouth and wait for their parents to feed them, and they often have gapes, which is bright corners at the edges of their bill or mouth. And that's a visual cue to their parents that they need to be fed, and you can often see it with your binoculars because it is so obvious on the bird.
Awesome. Thanks for going over that.
Of course.
Yeah, so now that you know how to ID birds at home, do you think you've seen any like young birds this season? Leave it in the chat. We'd like to know.
I know that we have, yeah. Right now we've got a nest of swallows right above my bedroom door, and
Yep.
those fledglings have been there. Yeah, they're sweet to see.
They're so sweet, yeah, making begging calls all the time. Their
Yeah.
beeps are very obvious. Yeah.
Let us know.
So now I'll go over like some characteristics that maybe banders look at to identify whether or not a bird is a young bird or not. Because some birds, like wren tits, there's let's see, bush tits, or even chickadees may look very similar to adult versions of them. And so something that we look at is their skull. So we're able to part their feathers on their head and use a little bit of water to help us. A bird's skin on top of their head is very thin, and so you're able to like see the skull clearly. And so I could use this diagram to help me, but you could think of like human babies and how they have like soft spots. Birds are kind of similar to that. Their skulls start out very pink with their first layer of bone, and over time they gradually develop a more what we call ossified bone, like I guess skull.
Awesome. We just got a radio in from our coworker Rosa that we do have a bird.
That's
Copy
awesome.
that, Rosa.
Yeah.
We'll see if it's a fledgling or not.
Yeah, so what I was saying was that over time, over a few months, usually, depending on species, I guess, a bird will develop a second layer of bone on their heads. And so us banders, when we have the bird in hand, we're able to tell, how developed the skull is. And that's a really good and like secure way to tell whether or not a bird is a fledgling. And some other characteristics might be eye color. For some birds like wren tits, woodpeckers, towhees, they might have a different eye color when they're young compared to when they're older.
Yeah, it's very easy to see in hand, but it's probably not as easy with binoculars unless you have the bird very close.
Something else that we may only be able to tell in hand is the mouth color. And so for corvids especially, we could open their mouths, and if the mouths are pink, then that might give us a hint as to like a younger bird. The next thing we can look at in hand is tail length. We can measure the tail, and certain birds might not have a fully grown tail at a certain point. Barn swallows, I know, like won't develop like a really large fork on their tail until very later.
Yeah, barn swallows are a good example of how you can tell fledgling or young birds apart from the adults. Oh, we've got a question.
Is the skull ossification similar to the soft spots on human babies?
Yes. The question was, is skull ossification in birds similar to soft spots in human babies? And yes, that is a great way to think about it. It's a very similar process of bones hardening in birds. It's just that, we can see it on the birds because their skin is so thin. It's a little bit different for human babies. And Rosa's here. We've got a bird. So we are going to do our best to kind of narrate what Rosa is doing while she's banding. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. It's very exciting.
All right. And so the last characteristic I'll talk about is bill corrugation. So for hummingbirds, we actually don't check their skulls, but instead we check their bills. So bill corrugation basically is we look at the grooves on the hummingbird's bill, and if it has a bunch of grooves, then that means that it's a young bird, because over time, as the bird gets older, that bill will smooth out. And so that's a good indicator.
Yeah. All right, Rose is just writing down a band number that we're going to put on that bird. We're letting her focus on the numbers for just a second.
You guys at home could maybe take a guess as to what bird it is. Here are the little bands against my hand.
They're microscopic, one might say.
My nail right next to it. I'll try to be still.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. This is also a good time, I think, while we're writing down some numbers, to talk about sexing fledglings. So younger birds are typically a little bit harder to tell if they're a male or a female because they haven't developed their adult plumage yet, where normally you can tell female and male birds apart for some species. Males tend to be brighter and flashier than the females. In hummingbirds and kingfishers, interestingly enough, you can look at tail patterns, coloration in the tail, to understand whether they're a male or a female, even in a young bird and a fledgling bird. You can also look at crown patterns. Woodpeckers have different crown patterns based if they're a male or a female when they're young, or even wing length for certain warblers and cowbirds. All right, we're gonna have a little bird unveiling.
Yeah, unboxing time.
People are really guessing the species, so you can just say.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So this is a hummingbird. It looks like it's either a Rufus or Allen's hummingbird. They both look very similar, but luckily for us, we have it in our hands, so we could take really specific measurements to figure out exactly what species it is. And so now Rosa is putting the bird on its back. She's very careful to pin the wings.
And right now they're looking at the tail patterns.
And it sounds like she just looked at the bill for bill corrugation. She said it had 70% bill corrugation. So if you remember what I said earlier, that means that this bird is a young bird.
Yeah, as the birds get older, I guess going a little bit more into bill corrugation, they will wear down the etchings on their beak. It will become smoother as they get older. So the fact that this bird has grooves along 70% of the bill means that it's definitely a young bird.
Yes. And it looks like she just examined the tail patterns and shapes, and this is going to be a Allen's hummingbird, so it's pretty cool.
You may see
Yeah.
You may see Rosa doing a little bit of a different process than I was handling the brown creeper earlier, because hummingbirds are very different than most other songbirds. We band them and handle them in a different way. So right now we're putting a little stocking over the hummingbird so that we can put the band on it safely and make sure that the bird doesn't wiggle or fly away while we're banding it and taking all the data on the hummingbird. Just helps us to keep the bird still and make sure that it's safe during the banding process. And right now we're giving them a little weigh. 3.1. So this bird it's very small. 3.1 grams is how much that bird weighs, which June's very good at the conversions. How many dimes or nickels?
That's less than 1 nickel.
It's less than 1 nickel, which
Wow.
is,
I think a nickel is around 4 grams.
4 grams, yeah. So if you've got a nickel laying around at home, this bird's almost half of that weight. It's very light.
So Rosa now is very carefully putting on the band. And for hummingbird bands, you might have seen how small it was against my hand. So how in the world can we even fit a 9-digit number on there? We don't really.
It's not possible.
So the first section of that sequence for hummingbirds is a letter, and that denotes, like, I guess 4 different numbers. And so it's a letter and then like the 5 numbers because it's such a tiny little band.
Awesome. And it looks like the band is on the bird's leg.
And I guess now is also a good time to go over more of the other tools. So Rosa just used banding pliers. I'm just going to take one of these to show. So this little pin over here we use to open the band, and then these top parts we use to close the band on the leg. And so you can see I'm squeezing really hard. These bands are designed to never close on a bird's leg, and they're custom made for us, so pretty cool.
Very cool. You'll see Rosa just took a tail measurement on our bird. That's another way that we can distinguish Rufus and Allen's hummingbird is by the width of their tail feathers.
Right.
And this one's a female. I don't know if we said that.
Awesome.
Wow.
We have determined that this bird is a female, which is pretty cool. Again, hummingbirds are one of the rarer species around here that we can sex them when they are a younger bird.
And so this is the tool that calipers that Rosa used to measure a very specific feather. on this hummingbird.
And now you'll see Rosa blowing on the bird, which we generally get a lot of questions about, and I had a lot of questions about when I first started banding as well. There are lots of things on the body of the bird that we check to see their condition and to take data on. And the best way to kind of be non-invasive and to cause the bird the least amount of disturbance is to blow on and part those feathers so that we can check things like their fat, if they're molting any feathers. Helps us to best see the bird without, getting in there and parting the feathers with our hands.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got a question. Let's hear it.
Do you recapture a lot of birds in later seasons?
That's a very good question. The question is that do we recapture a lot of birds?
Yeah, and we do. We recapture birds all year round, and yeah, as these birds grow older, some of them may be migrating to their winter grounds. A lot of the birds that we have here that breed here migrate into breed, but there are resident species. And so, but our rate, I guess, 30% recapture rate is what we have here, which is like pretty high. And so in the beginning of the season, we were only catching recaptured adult birds. And and just in like the last 2-3 months, we've had a lot of new young baby birds.
We're about to do something pretty exciting in the chat. So something we do here for hummingbirds that we don't do for other birds is we give them a little snack. We're going to be feeding this hummingbird some sugar water before we let her on her way. Hummingbirds require lots of energy and are pretty much constantly feeding. And so giving her this sugar water allows her to have a little snack and replenish some of that energy that she was not able to get. You may be able to see some bubbles coming up the feeder. This bird is hungry. She's drinking that sugar water. And we use the exact same solution that you guys at home may use in your hummingbird feeders. We make that sugar water nectar solution a couple times a week here and make sure that our hummingbirds are well fed.
And you want to make sure if you do use hummingbird feeders, I guess it's a great reminder to clean those out weekly at least and change out the sugar water, especially if it gets really hot out more than once a week. So
awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. Yep. We're going to release that bird. And we know the live is almost ending. So happy we were able to get a young bird for you guys.
Yeah.
So we'll start wrapping up.
I guess, yeah, really quick, I'll just talk.
Oh, we've got one last question.
What is your favorite capture of the season?
Oh. Okay, we were asked what our favorite capture of the season was, which is a great question. I'm going to say that mine, a couple months ago, June and I were working and we caught a pileated woodpecker, and that was incredibly exciting. That's a pretty common bird, many of you may know. That was great. That was my favorite capture. Mine
is probably the hatchier northern saw-whet owl. We had 2 in that day, so that was pretty cool. You might see a post soon on the Point Blue Instagram page.
Oh yeah, be checking our socials if you'd like to see some young owls. That'd be pretty cool.
Would you like to talk about your favorite capture?
Oh yes, my favorite capture is definitely a belted kingfisher that we caught just a few weeks ago actually here at the Palomarin Field Station, which is a pretty rare occurrence. I think we've only caught around 2 of them in the last 10 years, so that was really cool.
You may also see an Instagram post about that bird pretty soon, written by our lovely June over here. So 1 minute. Okay, awesome. Well, we wanted to tell you all that you can get involved with conservation and bird banding in many different ways. You can donate or volunteer at conservation organizations or participate in citizen science like eBird, many of you might know. And we wanted to thank you all for spending this time with us and getting to see a bird and just being here this morning.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for watching and tuning in.
Thanks for spending your morning with us.
Awesome.
Bye.